All right, let's look at the last installment of this unit. So I'm gonna kind of be doing a wrap up, but it's not a summary. There's a lot of stuff that we haven't yet to cover. And I'm just going to go through it, but you still need to know it, and it's not a specific section. It's not like 2.6 or something on College Board. It's kind of everywhere, but I wanted to group it together because they're relatively similar. So I'm gonna put up some stats which I find kind of interesting. So I'm just gonna look at this. So we have a GDP per capita in the United Kingdom of $36,110. So the average income about 36,000 US dollars. This is in US dollars. And the child mortality rate is 0.5 and the high school enrollment is 98%. I said that there is not necessarily a there is a high GDP does not necessarily mean high other things, but it does tend to correlate, as you'll see with these. In Mexico, the GDP is a bit lower, about $15,000 per person. About 1.6% of children end up dying, and only 70% are in high school. And in Mali, with about $1,000 per person, and more than 1/6 of the children die, and 31% are enrolled in high school. Just because a GDP doesn't always mean that you're going to have good things, it does tend to correlate. And so you need to know that when a country is doing better, it'll generally have less mortality rates, higher high school enrollments, and other things. But it doesn't imply that. All right, now I'm going to talk about productivity. Uh, I'll use this one. Pro to productivity. Productivity. And so a country's standard of living depends on its ability to produce goods and services. If a country can produce more shirts, more clothes, more video games, it will have a higher standard of living. And this depends on productivity. If a country has more tractors, then it can produce more food. If it has more workers, it can produce more food. If it has, so this creates this idea of a production function. So, so here is a production function. You have the real GDP is equal to kind of just some function. So this is what this AF is just, here's a function. It could be a sine, it could be an e to the x. It doesn't matter. This is a basic economics class. You're not about to do some calculus. Don't worry. Some function that requires some labor, capital, which is K, because C is for consumption. So this is capital. So labor capital, CAPIT. Labor capital, human resources, hold right, human human resources, and then N for natural resources. Nat resources. Nat resources. And this A is your level of technology. Because T is for taxes, and I don't know why they use an A. I don't know, maybe there's some brilliant people at the economics industry. So how much a country has the size of the economy, a GDP, is a function of the labor, the capital, the human resources, and the natural resources. China has a very high GDP. They may not have a ton of this, but they have a ton of this, which is why they have a very high GDP and a high productivity. Productivity is in terms of Y over L. So, how much GDP can you make per person working? So, alright, so now we're going to talk about the difference between human capital and technological knowledge. This kind of is an extension of this tab over here. So, what is human capital versus technological knowledge? So, a technological knowledge is society knowing how to do something or having something. So, if we have the concept of, I don't know, we know how to make cookies faster. John over here has a brilliant idea to produce a cookie every 5 seconds, but everyone else can produce a cookie in a minute. With this knowledge, he can greatly increase the productivity of the the cookie industry because he has this information. This information is technological knowledge. He knows how to do it. But human capital is this giving it to other people. He teaches them, and now they have gained human capital. They now have the wisdom of how to make these cookies, and thus the productivity is going to increase because this Y over L, right? And the labor is staying the same. And the thing that is changing is the productivity because we have more capital. We are teaching these people how to make cookies faster. And what would an economics unit be without the law of diminishing returns? Yes, this is in the productivity section. So we have a production function, and it looks kind of like this when you graph our capital per worker and our productivity per worker. Because as we increase our capital, our workers aren't changing. Our workers are constant. But as we add more and more tractors, we aren't getting as much productive. Let's imagine we have two really small nations, right? We have um, Island 1 and Island 2. And they both have very similar economies. Everything is about the exact same, except Island 1 has 100 tractors, and they have some productivity. Let's let's draw this over here. They have some productivity over here because they have 100 tractors. They have 100 people, 100 tractors. People are working, and their productivity is going. It's it's going very well. That is incredible dot. Let's try that again. But they are producing crops like nobody's business. Okay, with their 100 tractors, and then you have Island Nation B with literally zero tractors. They're using their hands to farm crops. Like nobody wants to be farming with their hands, but these fools are doing it. They have 100 dudes and they're all working and they don't have anything. And so they're like over here. And we give one more unit of capital, one more tractor to each country. So I'll draw out one little unit. So let's say that's over here. One more unit and one more unit. So now we're here on island nation A, and we're over here, island nation B. Now they can kind of take turns, and island nation A, you can see how they have a bit more productivity. If a tractor breaks over there, they have a spare. It's still increasing their productivity, it's just not as much. But in island nation B, they went from 0 to 1 tractors. Like these guys, they're the bee's knees. They think this is the best thing. And so they are producing like so many more crops. And so this idea is the catch-up effect. The poor countries can grow faster than rich countries. It's harder for a rich country to grow than a poor country because of this idea of a production function. Now we can talk about property rights. It's kind of just another thing. Property rights. Property rights, which is people can own what they own. They have the ability to exercise authority over stuff they own. If you don't have property rights in a country, it's probably not going to be very good. Finally, two more vocabulary words, one more big concept for this unit, and that is investment abroad. So to raise pay per L, that's the goal here. We want to raise the capital per labor. Is that's a big goal of changing the productivity. And so the way we can do this is by investing abroad. So we have foreign direct investment. I'm just gonna write FDI. I don't think that's a good um acronym, but it works. And so this is like actual capital investment. Investment being like a factory, um, a tractor to help build your thing. You're just doing it abroad. Investment. And the other videos I meant to say that when people say the word investment in the real world, they think of like stocks and bonds. And while that is in the real world, that is not in economics. Investment in economics is something that will help produce you more stuff. You're investing in your company so that you might lose a little bit of money now, but the goal is that it will make more in the long run. And then the foreign portfolio investment is what you might think of actual investments. You're kind of almost putting stocks into some other country to like so the foreign portfolio investment is financed with foreign money and but it is operated by people in that country, domestic residents. So said if I owned a company that is a United States company, but I said portfolio investment, let's let people in Taiwan. Let's let those people finance this. That would be foreign portfolio investment. But we said, all right, let's go build a factory for our American country in Taiwan. They own and operate that factory. So and so this is the different things. the direct investment versus a portfolio investment. And that's all the big things you need to know for this unit.